Chadian government rebuffed and scolded Macron's recent claim on French troops' departure from Africa. And so, we propose to African heads of state to reorganize our presence. As we are very polite, we let them have priority in the announcement. But you are not mistaken, we are the ones who have. And sometimes you had to push them. But it is not because we are polite and correct and reorganize ourselves that it should be turned against us by saying, they are driven out of Africa. In many of these countries, we did not want to remove the French army or even reorganize it, but we took it on together. That's partnership. And so, yes, we are in the process of opening a new defense security partnership, where we will have strategic bases. Djibouti is one of them, which is why it is of a completely different nature. I mentioned it in front of our soldiers. It will be lasting, stable, because it is regional. And we will ask our partners to know how to express their needs in terms of defense. French President Emmanuel Macron has once again demonstrated his disdainful attitude toward Africa, displaying a condescending tone and paternalistic vision that sadly echo the remnants of a bygone era. In a statement about the withdrawal of French forces from several African countries, Macron chose to target sovereign nations with barely veiled contempt, forgetting that Africa, far from being his plaything, is now more determined than ever to take control of its destiny. In response to this bragging, unworthy of a head of state expected to embody diplomacy and respect for peoples, the Chadian government reacted with scathing clarity and exemplary dignity. In an official communiqué issued on January 6, 2025, N'Djamena firmly rebuked Macron, denouncing a disrespectful attitude toward Africa and Africans. While reaffirming its respect for the French people and the historical ties between the two nations, Chad did not shy away from highlighting the glaring shortcomings of French policy in Africa. By recalling Africa's crucial role in liberating France during the two world wars, the Chadian government shed light on a truth that Paris has always neglected to acknowledge: the sacrifices of African soldiers, often relegated to oblivion, are at the very heart of the freedoms France enjoys today. But Chad did not stop at this historical reminder. It exposed the contradictions of French policy, denouncing a military and political presence in Africa that, over the decades, has never truly contributed to the structural development of African nations. On the contrary, as the Chadian Minister of State highlighted, this presence has often served only French strategic interests, leaving African peoples to face enormous challenges exacerbated by political instability and foreign interference. Chad's reply to Macron is unequivocal: instead of targeting Africa, President Macron should focus his efforts on solving the problems that concern the French people. This message, clear and incisive, reframes the debate where it belongs. African sovereignty is non-negotiable, and the dignity of African peoples cannot be trampled on by a foreign leader, no matter how powerful he thinks he is. By taking such a firm stance, Chad paves the way for a new era of relations between Africa and its partners, one built on mutual respect and acknowledgement of past sacrifices. Press release. The government of the Republic of Chad expresses its deep concern following the comments made recently by the President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, which reflect a contemptuous attitude towards Africa and Africans. Chad would like to point out that it has no problem with France as a nation nor with the French people, with whom it shares a history marked by human and cultural relations. However, French leaders must learn to respect the African people and recognize the value of their sacrifices. History attests that Africa, including Chad, played a decisive role in the liberation of France during the two world wars, a fact that France has never truly recognized. The immense sacrifices made by African soldiers in defense of freedom were downplayed, and no meaningful thanks expressed. Regarding Chad, it should be emphasized that the construction of our army is not the work of France. Our army, strong and resilient, is the fruit of the bravery of the Chadian people and the sacrifices made with modest means. France has never significantly equipped the Chadian army or contributed to its structural development. In 60 years of presence, marked by civil wars, rebellions and prolonged political instability, the French contribution has often been limited to its own strategic interests, without any real lasting impact for the development of the Chadian people. Instead of attacking Africa, President Macron should focus his efforts on solving the problems that concern the French people. The Chadian people aspire to full sovereignty, true independence, and the construction of a strong and autonomous state, acquired at the cost of inestimable sacrifices. We invite our partners, including France, to integrate this legitimate aspiration into their approach to relations with Africa. N'Djamena, January 6, 2025. The Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, African Integration, Chadians Abroad, International Cooperation. Government Spokesperson. Abdurrahman Kolamala. Emmanuel Macron would do well to reflect on these words before making further ill-advised remarks. This Chadian rebuttal marks a turning point. Africa is no longer willing to accept moral lessons disguised as insults. Times have changed, and African nations are now, rightfully, demanding full and complete sovereignty, forged through invaluable sacrifices. The ball is in Macron's court. Will he rise to this historic challenge, or will he continue to act like a misbehaving child on the international stage? Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.